So once again, after a little break, again, so welcome to our online conference, Move It, Youth Mobility in a Digital Era, which is actually transferred from a residential conference into a series of online events now. So I'm Sabrina Apitz, and I'm one of the facilitators here of the event, of the series of events. I'm very happy that we have been able to transfer it to a space where we actually can share and we can connect in these times. Today, well, I'm really happy that we have so many people on Facebook watching. So feel free to use the chat of the event, so of the live streaming, and post any kind of comments and questions you find there. You can put there, but you can also, let's also use this international community of youth workers and trainers and other people who are involved in that, and our general intellect to actually also answer some questions and react on comments of somebody. So feel invited to not just ask, but also answer and react. You can also introduce yourself if you would like. So I think a few of you already did that. Feel free to fill in some words about you and what else is needed. And today we have invited for the opening a special guest from a research perspective. So to open up this event, and this is Niels BRÜGGEN with a keynote speech on digital and smart youth work. And we also ask him to please bridge to youth mobility. So, but one step after another. So first of all, we would like to know from the organizers how this all started and why it is needed. And therefore I give the word to my colleague Evaldus.
Hello everyone, also from my side. I am Evaldas Rupkus, and I am also co-facilitating together with Sabrina this series of online events that will finish only on the 17th of June. So we hope that you have all the energy and all the interest for the upcoming days. So today we have three out of our big preparatory team who would like to also say hello and welcome you to this online event, Move It, Youth Mobility in Digital Era. So I would like to start with Manfred von HEBEL, who is representing national agency JUGEND für Europa in Germany. Manfred, why do we need to talk about digital youth mobility?
Thank you very much, Evaldas, and a very warm welcome to everybody out there, wherever you are. I really hope you're doing well and you're fine and healthy. We are so grateful that we can run our Move It conference today in a completely different scenario that none of us could have imagined like 3 months ago. Therefore, first of all, I have to thank a lot of people. Ülly from the Estonian Youth Work Center, Daniel from IJAB, and our great colleagues from BRÜGGEN and the Finnish NA, and all the people in the background who made it possible to change this conference. Transnational mobility programs and the global virus are two things that don't go together at all. They're contradicting each other. We made this experience very lively in the last weeks, and that's why we've learned a lot of things about the great opportunities of digital youth work, but at the same time also about the limitations that this digitalized youth work has also shown us. We have an entirely different setting of a conference now here today. We also have an entirely different audience than we originally planned to have here today. Now we have an audience that only consists of experts, as each and every one of us has learned so much about how to use digital tools in youth work, how blended learning could function, how virtual exchanges could be carried out. In Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps, a lot of projects have been changed in the recent months and weeks. We are very grateful for this flexibility, on the one hand by the organizers and providers of the program, but also by the organizers of the project as such. At least partly, a lot of these projects could be carried out also in a virtual way, have become as digital activities. And the original feedback that we got, the overall original feedback that we got, is very positive. People are very grateful for this flexibility. They also could at least partly continue with their activities. But at the same time, it became very, very obvious to us, and also that's the feedback that we get from surveys and our own observations, that virtual activities of whatever kind cannot entirely replace physical mobility as we used it, as we used to know it, and as we used to carry out exchanges. And that the value of intercultural learning is also about tangible learning of cultures. Youth mobility, first and foremost, is a physical experience, and at least from my point of view, it will also remain like that. So with all the great opportunities we've seen in the recent days to meet up, to actually continue our work and continue many of the projects, we also experienced that how tiresome online meetings can be, how dependent we are on things that things function in a technical, satisfying way. I think with Move It, we have a great opportunity now, today, and the coming days and until mid-June, to reflect upon this experience that we made, also to see how we can use it in further shaping the programs, in further shaping our activities, to use virtual activities as well, and in combination maybe with also physical activities. I'm really, really grateful that we can start this today. I'm really, really grateful that you share this experience with us, and I'm really looking forward to these different modules and of this coming event. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Manfred, for your little insight. We also would like to ask Daniel POLI, who is also part of the organizers. Daniel is the head of the unit qualification and development of the international youth work of IJAB, which is International Youth Service of Federal Republic of Germany. And he is actually, has been involved in the field of digital youth work, e-participation, and also use and information on a national and international level for many years now. So Daniel, what was the journey of the idea until today?
First of all, hello everyone. On behalf of IJAB and the whole consortium, a very warm welcome to all of you. I'm very happy that our conference has attracted so much interest and that so many people from all over Europe are taking part now. To your question on the journey, when I wrote the first draft and talked to Manfred over a year ago, we couldn't expect it, how things would develop and what relevance the topic would have today. So at that time, I was firmly convinced that it was time to break down all the discourses on the European level on the topic of digital youth work to our core business, to youth mobility. So in order to highlight where the opportunities lie and also discuss it critically, like Manfred said. Because the guiding principle here has always been that physical contact must be the focus of attention. Who could have guessed that we are now in a situation where physical exchange is hardly possible and digital formats are coming to the front? So when it was clear that we had to rethink or redesign the concept, we basically remained stuck with the idea that we had to critically discuss how exchange in the context of learning mobility through digital tools or virtual formats would continue to be possible. And above all, which methods and pedagogical concepts would have to be the guiding principles. In this sense, we also wanted to bring together current developments and all the experience you made in the last weeks of the crisis, using new tools, using video formats or any other things to go on with the work, to exchange and discuss together. So this has resulted in a whole series of online events, such as webinars today or online bar camp tomorrow, and other sessions for exchange coming up in the next week. So a wonderful mix of great formats we're trying out here, and I'm really looking forward to it. And of course, I want to thank the whole preparation team, the partners, the consortium, especially the staff of Jugend für Europa, Inge and Katharina, who did an enormous effort and a great job here. So thank you very much for that. And I'm really looking forward to an exciting kickoff today and exciting series of events. So I like to move it. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Daniel. And we also see that our community on live stream, for example, Janley is also talking about the fact that we are, finally, we should acknowledge that there is no whether or online or offline, but it's how can we talk about both of them. So let's see how that Niels takes in his presentation and in his ideas of opening up the whole series. So today we also have Ülly N on board, who is representing Estonian Youth Work Center ENTK. Ülly, it seems to be quite a consortium. We have so many partners on board, and you are here today from Tallinn. So why is it a European event?
Well, hello Europe and Evaldas, indeed. Now that the Eurovision Song Contest had to be cancelled this spring, I'm sure that we need good alternatives on pan-European level, non-competitive, fully cooperative, and voila, Move It is there. But on a more serious note, like also Manfred and Daniel already referred, international youth mobility is one of the cornerstones of European youth field as we know it. And the opportunities we've seen already opened by the digital era have brought up both the potentials, but also the issues we need to commonly look upon. And this is a whole European issue, if not global even. So for this event here, the three countries, Estonia, Finland, and Germany, we have indeed joined all our enthusiasm and expertise, and both in youth work and in digitalization, and organize a series of web events for European youth field community now. One might say that it is the key institutions from three of these countries. It is IJAB, the International Youth Service of the Federal Republic of Germany. It is BRÜGGEN, the National Expertise Center for Digital Youth Work from Finland. And it is Estonian Youth Work Center. We are the National Competence Center for Youth Work and Youth Policy in Estonia. But even more widely, in close cooperation with the national agencies of European Union, Erasmus Plus and European Solidarity Corps programs, and also co-funded by the European program. Indeed, for the same reason, this is our common thing to be fully developed further. And looking at European development so far, it is no coincidence that both Estonia and Finland, we have dedicated our recent presidencies of the Council of the European Union to the digitalization in youth field. Estonia in 2017, where the member states agreed to work towards the common digital innovation concept, smart youth work. And Finland, during its presidency in 2019, where the member states adopted the council conclusions on digital youth work. Now Germany is about to take up its presidency very soon, any minute, and we really wish the best of luck to our good colleagues to also move it, as if we use the title and the vibe of this event here, and take us all further in European youth field, not only in regarding the youth mobility, but even wider, because this is the true European strength what we can have. So this would be from the side of the organizers. But I fully agree to what my colleagues have said before, that I think the real power of this series of events is in the fact that we have extremely exciting colleagues from different European countries contributing as speakers to different events, as workshop facilitators, and even more colleagues who are joining us as to participate and contribute with your expertise and experiences. So I'm really, truly excited. And I was joking before that to me, no offense, but even be here sounds a bit and feels a bit more exciting than to be in Germany in the physical room, because we were there already for the preparation meeting. But voila, now we have all the new opportunities, and let's take the maximum out of it.
Thanks, Ülly, for this underlining the diversity, but also the, let's say, the new exploring of the team of this world, let's say. So that's quite exciting also for us. But what's on the plate today? We will share with you what we have planned for today. So we are currently on the introduction and short welcome. We'll then getting to know who is out there on Facebook. Actually, you're already using the chat, which is really nice. So continue with that. And after we know a bit more who's there, we have the keynote by Niels BRÜGGEN, and followed by a Q&A, as already said. We plan to have a short break after around an hour for you to take a drink, whatever, have some tea, or for the ones who want, we have prepared a little yoga exercise, yoga at your desk, let's say. It's a little bit of home office conference style and very short. So, but in order to get a bit of energy back, and afterwards we would tell you about what's coming next, actually. So what is waiting out there for you next 6 events, and some feedback, and we finished around 5.
Great. So we hope that you have all this time here with us, and you are also willing to stay even longer. There is a Padlet that we have shared already in advance, and we will remind you of that by the end of the event, where you can even continue sharing your ideas and discussing further, because it's quite a long time we have now with all of us together. So let's have a look at those who are watching us. We see that we have 161 viewers on the live stream right now, but we would like to know also more about you. So where are you watching at us? And for that, you will need to take one of your devices and enter menti.com, and when you will open the browser, and you will need to provide the code, which is 185322. So enter menti.com and provide the code 185322, and there you will find already the first question: which country are you from or at? So where are you watching at us and watching the live stream right now? So we see that we have several from Germany, Italy, Estonia, Finland, France. Bosnia-Herzegovina is also here. Somebody is here from Hell. Somebody is also from Slovenia. Luxembourg is there. Poland. somebody coming from the vast land of internet, Scotland, Turkey, Lithuania, Greece, United Kingdom, Hungary, Austria. Great. Keep it going. We already have 105 of you on board on Menti. Portugal is also on board, Ukraine, North Macedonia, the Netherlands, Belgium. Lovely. It seems that we really have all over the Europe, also beyond the EU. So let's move on and let's have a look at the second question. So who is here? Not only where you are physically or geographically, but also what defines you best. So how would you call yourself? You are a youth worker, trainer, youth leader, youth project manager, policy or decision maker, volunteering mentor, researcher, or neither of those, and you would rather say you are something else. So then go for other. So what defines you best? And we see that there are plenty of trainers on board, also youth project managers. So all of the target audiences that have been invited are represented, at least youth leaders and youth volunteering mentors so far, one, and many youth project managers, youth workers and trainers. Great. Thank you for that. Let's go on and let's have a look at your motivation. So why are you here? What brings you to this series of online events? Why is Move It, youth mobility in the digital era, a topic for you? So to learn about what's going on in Europe, to inspire, to get inspired, to procrastinate, exchange good practices and networking, to learn about new trends in online learning, to share, network, improve your work, to get some new information. Or because you are just working in this field, which is absolutely a reason enough to be on board. Thank you so much for that. Keep sharing. And we are now moving on.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Evaldus, for letting us know who is out there. We also have two more people with us who supports us. One is Agne Rapalaite from visualmind.lt from Lithuania. And she is a graphic facilitator and a trainer in the field of youth. And she's at the right place, let's say, because she loves digital worlds and visual thinking. And she supports us during today with some visuals. And there's also Ricarda Moczilnik. I hope I spelled it well. She is from Austria, from werdedigital.at. And she's actually the master of technicalities, let's say, today. Thanks for being here.
Yes, and you will see by the end of our live stream and opening today what Agne has been doing here and what she has been drawing, seeing, and recording it for you. And you can also see how is she proceeding, and she is also looking forward to that, what we are all here looking forward to. So it's for the keynote by Niels BRÜGGEN, who is representing the JFF, or Institute for Media Research and Media Education in Germany. Niels BRÜGGEN is a head of department, and he is a researcher working there already since several years. He has also been part of the expert group on digitalization of youth work in the European Union. And today he prepared something very special for us. He thought a bit for us and will set some of the ideas and maybe also some of the questions that we will be asking ourselves and trying to find the answers to discuss with all of you here in the community, particularly tomorrow in the bar camp, but also then in digital mobility labs that will follow. So he will be talking today about where do we stand in digital and smart youth work, and by that he will try to bridge the gap to youth mobility. So we hope also to get the frame set for us so we can bridge this gap, and we can also maybe be more exact and more clear what do we mean by digital youth mobility, because it seems to be an emerging topic, an emerging field. So let's see how Niels looks at that. So Niels, the stage is yours.
Yeah, hi everyone. And dear Evaldas, thank you very much for the warm welcome and the introduction. And also to the organizers of this event, thank you very much for inviting me to speak at the opening of this series of events, which is a great honor to me. And last but not least, hello to everyone behind the screens. It's a quite special situation to hold an opening speech without any visual contact to those I'm speaking to, but I hope you are well and the technology is working well so that everything goes well. So where do we stand in digital and smart youth work? In the preparation meeting, we agreed that my input should bundle together thoughts on youth mobility in the digital era on a more conceptual level. Hopefully that will spark some thoughts that all of you can take with you in the following events and also in your work contexts. So I'll be starting from the concepts of digital and smart youth work to build a bridge to youth mobility. That being said, I know that youth mobility is part of youth work, and also that there are already experiences in using digital technology in youth mobility. But drawing on a lot of discussions about the key idea of digital and smart youth work and findings of youth research about the media appropriation of young people and the digital transformation of their everyday life, I come to the point that we need to rethink the very concept of mobility in the digital era to get a grasp of what digital youth mobility might imply for our practices at the very different levels on which we work. So this is basically my key message, rethink mobility, which I will be going into details now. Being aware of the special situation of this speech, I thought I would pick up some inspirations from YouTube entertainment and present to you another video stream in the series of 6 things in an entertaining manner. Like, oh, sorry, no, that doesn't work. Like 6 thoughts about digital youth mobility, bam! But I probably won't be able to compete with YouTube stars on the level of entertainment. But I will try to do my best, and I will cling to the 6 things I will present to you. So the first one is use the concepts of digital and smart youth work to look ahead. There are a number of concepts about digital and smart youth work that are relevant when thinking about digital youth mobility. We heard of them before. There's the work of the EU expert group on digitalization and youth work with the report developing digital youth work, and in the background of this, the digital competence framework, DIGCOM. And we have the council conclusions on smart youth work from 2017 and on digital youth work from 2019. There are European guidelines for digital youth work that link the policy level to the level of youth work organization, and that list is not comprehensive at all. If I should pin down the takeaway messages of these concepts that we could use to get an orientation on how to approach digital youth mobility, it would be, first, we need to acknowledge the digitalization of society and youth work. And therefore, we need to look closely in which ways this so-called transformation is taking place and how it could be manipulated in a way we would like it to happen. And second, we should make use of digital technology in a smart way, meaning that the use of technology should follow youth work goals, and the concept should build on existing ethics, principles, and practices. Therefore, we need to proactively build capacity to be able to provide relevant offers in the digital era. We need to adopt practices. We need to look at the structure of the sector. We need to work on a policy level, and we will also need to digital solutions that enable us to work with our principles. And I think the platform Open is an example that this is actually possible to build and provide such digital solutions. So these concepts, if we bundle them together, enable us to look a little visionary and ask what digital youth mobility might encompass. And it seems to be timely to speak about digital youth mobility. So as number 2, I will try to define digital youth mobility. There is no academic term or definition of the term digital youth mobility, nor a working definition so far. And as I want to show you, a definition is not easy either, because the reference points also change during digital transformation. For instance, this holds true for the notion of mobility. As my parents' generations would have done, I started with a dictionary definition, and the Collins Dictionary provides with 3 notions of mobility, with the first being the most relevant for our topic. It's probably the first thing we think of when talking about youth mobility and international youth work. It's all about going to another place, meeting other people, experiencing other cultures, and through that developing personally and possibly also professionally. When thinking about digital youth mobility, my point is that we might need to change this definition here to the ability to move in spaces which are on and offline. So we will have to look at the spatial mobility in the face of digitalization and how hybrid spaces are being created and experienced. I go further in detail about that in a minute. But first, go through the definition from Collins. The second notion from Collins sheds light into the idea that mobility has also a social dimension, and activities in youth mobility usually aim at providing better chances for personal and professional life. If we want to define digital youth mobility, we probably should have an idea who in particular should be profiting from our efforts. I will try to evoke some thoughts on that as well, yet this topic will definitely need further elaboration within the series of events. And the third notion of mobility appeared strange to me as a German, because we use a different word for the time that a resident of a secure unit is allowed to spend outside the unit as preparation of an eventual return to society. But if I try to relate it to youth mobility, there are some connection lines. Also, young people are being addressed with special programs to support them to grow into a self-dependent life in society, and safety is an issue when it comes to digital media as well. Be it data protection or contact risks that we have to deal with and support young people to cope in digital settings or provide safe spaces. So actually, the Collins Dictionary did help to shed light into the aspects we might need to think and rethink within digital youth mobility. So let's come to number 3. And with that, I want to come back to pick up on the hybrid spaces. I do so by starting with the life worlds of young people today. As far as I have an overview of available research data, some points are quite consistent throughout Europe, given that there is always the need to differentiate or more specific, and the term young people refers to a big variety of different life worlds and needs. But when we try to paint the broad picture, digital media are a constitutive part of the life worlds of young people today. Everyday practices of young people are deeply mediatized. To get an idea of how young people understand dancing, you need to know TikTok. And with a smartphone as the prior way to access the internet, online and offline experiences get intertwined, which leads to the term hybrid life worlds. In these hybrid worlds, young people who are at the same place could be in a different space at the same time, which holds true for the boys we see in the picture, but this also applies, this also applies for those being at home, for instance, when they use the digital service TikTok, in which people react to one another and therefore create a space of expression and collaboration. Yeah. Well, this draws to the notion of relational spaces. This is a concept in which we think about spaces not only in the physical world. Spaces can be established through interaction, and there has been a long-standing tradition to use space as metaphor for online experiences. Think of the cyberspace, for instance. The interesting thing about these online spaces is that they are established through interaction of humans, but the way humans can act within these spaces is highly mediated by the code of the service being used. There are certain ways to react to a video in TikTok, and others are excluded. This structure of spaces is something we need to reflect on when using digital services in youth work. Although it's hybrid life worlds we are talking about, many young people predominantly use these spaces to reconnect to existing face-to-face contacts. Here, digital media is an important factor to reassure oneself of social ties. If we try to connect that to a notion of mobility, this would probably correspond with staying within familiar spaces. But we do find young people who connect beyond their face-to-face contacts when they engage in interest-led online communities. Gaming would be such a community in which young people connect through their interest in a highly mediated activity itself. But there are also examples in other areas such as skateboarding, music, or dancing, with the TikTok examples here. And adopting to the notion of mobility here, this might be relevant as new forms or as new digital forms of mobility in hybrid spaces. And what I find interesting is that this links to older concepts of participatory culture, which could be used or being used as viewing options on digital spaces today. What do I mean with that? If we recognize something like a digital mobility as an essential part of mobility in the digital era, we need to find some criteria that help us to identify whether spaces are supporting this new form of digital mobility. And I would like to present to you two concepts that I believe are helpful in doing so. First, this is the concept of participatory culture by Henry Jenkins, circulating since the 2000s something. He stresses four aspects of online cultures that he values as participatory, and I suggest that these could also help or be used to the evaluation of digital spaces in regard of digital mobility. So its affiliation, the space must provide the features that allow the sense of belonging to a community, to be able to relate to one another. It's about expression. The space must support the expression of the individual members and value their expression. Collaboration, the space must enable collaboration as in bringing things forward together. And circulation, the space must be designed in a way that allows the flow of media products and with that of information. I think that these aspects can help to envision what could be added as a value to youth mobility projects in the digital sphere. The second set of criteria is the result of research that Jane Melvin has conducted on digital media use in youth work settings. In this very simple set of aspects, she differentiates whether a space provides with information or with misinformation, whether it's characterized by communication or miscommunication, like hate speech or something like that, whether you can be productive or it's a rather unproductive space, and finally, whether it's a safe space or not. What I find thrilling is the idea that an unsafe space might have its value regarding production capacities. That implies to find ways to make use of this space adequately rather than excluding it from the spectrum of opportunities for youth work. And I think this perspective is relevant to digital youth mobility as well. Not all places need to be safe, but we need to have safe places as well. And as we move forward, I would like to discuss with you whether these concepts could also help us to think about the role of VR and 3D technologies for youth work settings. And here I think we should be able to think about spaces with these qualities rather than making places accessible. So we come to number 5. I try to break that idea down with a headline that would be digital youth mobility is not VR tourism. Digital youth mobility is not in the first place about seeing some fountain in Rome, or although the Fontana di Trevi is spectacular. But I guess that sightseeing might be a part of a visit, but it's not the essential part. Yet if we are able to relate VR video of the Fontana di Trevi or something else to the criteria we mentioned before, it might be possible to find a function in digital youth mobility for such media offers like VR as well. But if we're just using VR because it's new and edgy, we lose our attachment to youth work goals that still stay relevant in digital youth work and would just head to another youth work fail, I'm afraid, because we detach from the actual experience. So we come to number 6. Sorry, I just need a sec. As being said before, we need to think about safety. And those of you who have worked with me before know that I'm and was very strict on issues like privacy and online safety. I'm that type of guy who encrypts emails with GPG and so on. And I know that safety issues quite often hinder youth work from accessing digital spaces. But the adoption of the rights of the child in the guidelines to respect, protect, and fulfill the rights of the child in the digital environment, which are the recommendations CM-REC 2018-7 of the Committee of Ministers to Member States, opened a new perspective for me as well. So we need to address safety. Yes. Oop. Okay. So, yeah. But safety is also a subjective experience. I link to the notion of Melvin of safe and unsafe places that require different practices from us. And the rights of the child now state that young people have a right to take part in online activities, and at the same time, they have the right for their data to be protected. What sounds like an opposition is a call for balancing under the view of rights of the child. Of course, it takes states into obligation to establish regulation and control on data protection, for instance. But seeing from the child's perspective, it's not as easy to dismiss all efforts to go digital because a lack of data protection. This will be interesting to discuss onwards. As well, we could add the right to being educated in the field of media and digital competences to foster safe practices, which then becomes an activity or a goal of youth mobility as well, especially digital youth mobility. With that, I would come to my conclusion. As said, digital youth mobility urges us to think or rethink mobility, not only to be seen as physical, but as mobility, or physical mobility, but as mobility in hybrid spaces. Digital mobility should make use of digital media in smart ways, for which I try to provide with some concepts that can be adopted to practices in the field with Jenkins and Norton. And digital youth work must recognize the hybridity of today's life worlds and should not limit itself to online spaces. As we experience today, this would limit or be a limitation of our experience. And let me close with a short comment on the current COVID-19 lockdown. This picture envisions two things of the current situation we are facing. First, with a lockdown, young people are somewhat limited to digital mobility to meet with friends at the moment. So here we see potential of digital youth mobility. But a second aspect is part of this picture as well. We see a massive transformation of labor within the businesses working in home office now. Here we see a new form of mobility of work. And it might be an argument that this will help the single market within the EU to be even more open without many workers have to move physically. But nonetheless, experience within the cultural differences within the EU will be an asset in this new market of labor. And we need youth work for equipping young people here. So that would be my insight or aspects from here. Thank you very much for your attention. And just a quick fast note, from tomorrow on, the script and presentation will be available on our website, jff.de. Yeah, and thank you very much. And maybe we have some questions now.
Thank you very much, Niels BRÜGGEN, for your exciting speech, and I think also a tryout to come a bit closer to the term of youth mobility, digital youth mobility, and what it is about and what could it be. And of course, from a researcher perspective, we have a lot of practitioners out there who are also interested in sharing. I would kind of motivate you out there to also send your questions in the chat, because there are a lot of comments already you're discussing in the chat. But if you have a concrete question to Niels, just let us know, and we will get it transferred to us as moderators. So first question from my side would be, or from our side in general, I would like to bridge or take your last point a little bit further. You try to connect it to the COVID-19 situation in a moment, and I'm wondering what is actually, what does this current situation also change in the development of digital and smart youth work? Maybe also already, if you can say it about digital youth mobility in future, let's say, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like some points of that, I just mentioned. At the moment, we see how important digital mobility is for young people to connect to their peers at the moment. So those who are in youth work and already started their journey into the digital or into digital youth work, they have actually better chances to reach out for the young people they address in their work by now, and all the others actually are keeping up with a big massive pace now. So I think the need to go digital was unexpected, as said before by others already, that there is a big movement and the clarity that there is potential. But as mentioned before already as well, is that many people experience that it's just not the same as meeting. Ülly was very excited about our new conference mode now, but but still, for instance, I can't see any reaction of those I'm talking to now, and this is quite a lag for me. And so we always have to balance here as well of the potential and the aspects that don't really benefit, but maybe are obstacles, and try to organize them. So that would be some thoughts. What my impression is that a lot of people now started, who were reluctant before, they see the need to go into this sphere now, and which I think is good. But what we realize is that some are really just going hands-on into it, and not all of them in the field really take a conceptual note. So what is actually needed now, and how can I transform my work and to a situation that it is actually something more than we had before. Maybe that was a thought.
Niels, it's indeed not having the feedback is one of the bigger challenges, particularly in this kind of a format that we are now having in a live stream, where we don't even have a clear technical chances. But I can tell you that from the chat, there has been several heads up and also grateful comments from the audience. So thank you also from my side for your ideas and for opening up the floor. And we do have several questions now popping in, but for the start, and even when you started, Nerijus Kriaučiūnas from Lithuania, one of the trainers, had also the question whether it's at all a gap, or did not we try enough? And I think this also connects a bit with what you have been just saying lately.
Yeah, I mean, bridging the gap, I think, is really something youth mobility is supposed to do, or like showing the gap and bridging it. That's sort of two phases of youth mobility or international youth work, maybe. And I'm not sure whether it's really bridging a gap between digital youth work and youth mobility, as digital youth work or youth mobility, as I said before, is a part of digital youth work. But if what I think is special, or in the preparation of this event, I was thinking of what is the special thing about youth mobility, and when we're talking about digital youth mobility. And as I said before, I think it's really, that is something different, that we need to think about mobility in the digital era. And we need to think about it differently and take a broader picture of mobility, not only the physical mobility, but all sorts of mobility in spaces that young people that is relevant to young people. And here my impression was that there is not yet much thought being spent on that. There is some thought being spent, that has been spent on spaces, as I referred to, but not really in the context of mobility or youth mobility. So I think here's a link that I try to close, or rather gap that I try to close with links to concepts that could be useful in the context of youth mobility.
Thanks, Niels, for wrapping up a little bit if there's a gap or not. There's another question from Elena Sorolio. She is, first of all, saying thank you and congratulations to your presentation, but then having a question, how do you believe that we can keep the balance between digital human rights, freedom and security?
I think it's a really tough one, and it's probably a question that is not really, that there's no way to answer it in a finite way, like this is the answer, and here we are. But what I like to about the work of Melvin is that she looks at spaces and accepts that some spaces are unsafe, but doesn't conclude in the fact that these spaces are like they are spaces. But we rather look from a youth work perspective, look at these places and think, okay, in what context are they relevant for young people, and how do we need to equip young people to be able to navigate in these unsafe places without being like being hit or being I'm lacking the word, being not injured, but being harmed, that's it. This is sort of the idea how to balance, or that would be my answer, that we need to think about possible harms and how we could navigate young people through that or apart from that. And that actually differs from context to context and from service to service. A really tough one is the data protection question here, because it's so invisible and possibly something that is directed toward the future, which implies a big responsibility for the life of young people. And at the same time, it's highly indefinite because you really don't know what might be happening, but the potential is big, but you don't really know about the probability of something like data being bad in the coming up to be harmful like in the future process of life. So that's the really hard one. Should I elaborate on that more, or do we have other questions? So there's another keynote speech that we could draw on security and how to balance that, and especially on data protection.
Exactly. And I also have the feeling, I don't know about you, Niels, but I have the feeling that sometimes it's also a bit of a German question. Everything what's connected to digital safety. What do you say about that?
Yeah, definitely. And that's something I was thinking about before, in whether I can take it in the presentation. So now I'm happy for the question, that youth mobility in regard to digitalization can also be a way to understand how other countries or within other countries in Europe, the process of digitalization is being culturally framed. And for instance, as said, I'm rather hardcore on data protection, and I would have never used contactless payment without being in Finland and just not having the possibility to pay otherwise, really. So, and seeing everybody paying contactless. And so it was the first time I got my card out of the box and actually paid contactless. I'm not really sure whether that's a good thing now, but what is a good thing is that moving to other places, and that's a spatial thing, you really need to go to the places, is also to experience how digitalization is taking place in different places differently, and how there are different notions of digitalization and digital transformation. And to experience them within the European context is, I think, a big asset as well, or of great value for pan-European discussion.
Great. So you are also going in the direction where Francesco is going into, but maybe not so much on the national differences or that what the infrastructure of particular country is offering us. But now he's asking, in the view of hybrid spaces mobility, how would you tackle the digital divide, access to resources, connectivity, devices, capacity to access, especially thinking on more marginalized youth communities? So it's, I know, you know, this can happen also in Finland, so to say, if we take that Finnish case is really the best practice one.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned with mobility and its social dimension, and that I really didn't have the time or space to dig deeper in that, because it's a really important issue. Even though most of the youth research states that almost all young people are online, I think the variety in which young people have access to online, being online, and the equipment that they have, which is limiting also the possibilities that they could use these spaces, is immense and great. That's just another thing that gets obvious now with the lockdown also, that we have a big difference between those who are well off and well equipped and have the money to have expensive and flat rate connection, and other young people who do not have these access possibilities. But also looking at the equipment is not enough. We know from the research about that, but there is like microcultural differences that, for instance, we did some research about actually online spaces, how they connect together in hybrid spaces, in social, like under the term of social spaces. And we did see that actually there are also gender issues here, that young girls sometimes, or we had that, found that phenomenon that they sort of build their secure space with limited connections only online, whereas other young people were more open and could make use of more like positive experiences for them. And so where I'm heading here, really it's a big issue. So I'm not really getting to the point, but it's a really big issue, and it's a big issue in all countries, I would say. It's rather a social issue than a difference between the country. Is that sufficient? Probably not.
Yeah, it's actually the question of time. Also, we have a few more questions here out there. We try to answer them after the event here or during the time in the chat. But one last one for you, and I combined two here. I hope that's fine for you. It's one last question about a good example, or just an example of what you tried to explain before. What could be a blended mobility actually with your concept within Erasmus Plus program. And then maybe I add one more. What's actually next in digital youth mobility?
The good practice is a good question, because probably it would be better to ask the audience to drop in the good practices they have in their context. For me, it's, from a research perspective, probably a bit difficult to explain, but or to give a concrete answer. What I would think of is that there's a big variety of good practice that is possible here. And if we think about the slide with the concepts from Jenkins and Melvin, I think there are a lot of things that actually could do its job, and okay, I'm going to pin down really one thing, and it's about VR. As I was a bit despictive on VR, and I do not seem to be like that I have objectives against that, but I think it's always a need to think about what's the function for the youth mobility. And actually, when I was looking around, I was thinking, like, if we're thinking of young people who are less mobile and really need our support, then they might be being afraid, or being afraid might be an aspect for them, and being afraid to travel in different areas might be an aspect. So actually I thought like an airport or public transport in other cities may be more relevant to as an information source for preparation of youth mobility than the actual site where you want to get to and see it in not 3D but real life. So that would maybe be just a very little thing, but something that could add extra to youth mobility projects in which it should work.
Niels,
next, yeah, okay.
So much for all of your ideas, and we see that this is a topic that cannot be discussed only in this short time that we have today for the opening. That's why we have 6 more events coming, and we will just give you briefly an overview of that in a moment. And I would like to remind also other participants that we saw there are many aspects and questions going in direction of social inclusion and engagement of young people, and all of that will be discussed also in separate digital labs. As also our team of experts and also you as peers, please do react and do comment on questions that you see already in the chat, and it's just for us not possible to get into depth with each of that. So Niels, thank you so much, and we applaud your input.
Thank you.
Sabrina, I have the feeling that we need to move a bit. What do you say?
Yes. So for those of you who need a little energizer break, we prepared some yoga exercise for you. So I will move a little bit back in order that you can see me a bit better. So, as I said, this is a yoga exercise at your desk. So the only thing we need is a chair and yourself. So sit up nice and comfortable on your chair. Hands can be put on your legs and make yourself kind of straight and tall, so straight back. And take first of all a deep breath in. And a long exhale out. You can of course also close your eyes if you like. So now we drop the chin to our chest and begin to nod with the head slowly. Now we shake our head from left to right. And once more. And now we draw some circles with the nose so that we move our head in circles. So one way and the other way. So, and also let's loop the shoulders a few times. So you can do that, of course, backwards. Or for those of you who like it better forwards, that's also a way. Just find what feels good for you. Exactly. And what I also like is always a gentle twist in yoga. And we can also do it here. If you take your right hand and put it on the outer edge of your left leg and the left hand behind you, then you can have a little gentle twist in this direction. And also here, inhale and open your heart. Exhale and journey into the twist. You can also put your hand on the desk if you like. This is better. And exhale again and release. Take it to the other side. So we take the left hand on the right leg and the right hand behind you. And again, a dry inhale exhale. And next exhale, we release again. Well, there is another thing we could do. We put our left hand now and grab the chair. And with the right hand, we go up and over. In order to stretch a bit in this direction, for those who want a deeper stretch, you can put your left hand on the right armchair. And release again. And we do the same with the right hand. Left arm up and over. Great, and relief.
Wow, Sabrina.
Small little things, I would say. So you need a little bit of space behind you. And we will interlace the hand behind us. Like, put it like this. Open your heart, shoulders down. And you can also fold forward slowly. And back to release. And last one, we do the opposite in the back. So you need a little bit of space there. You can also interlace your fingers in the back. And we lay back, round our feet. Great. So, in order to feel it, enjoy the moment for a bit. How are you feeling? Notice it. And I think we are more or less prepared, going back.
Yes, great. Thank you, Sabrina. And people on the chat are also enjoying the Move It yoga. Limonist is afraid that he broke his chair handle, but yeah, let's see how that will work out. And let's see what's coming next. So Sabrina, if you are ready, if you are back from
fresh back, yeah, great.
Great. So let's have a look at our visual journey, because we have something that Agne prepared for us. And Sabrina, so what is awaiting us tomorrow? We hear bar camp. What is it? What should we expect?
Exactly, it's a bar camp, so it's really a kind of open space for all of our peers out there. So we thought that, of course, this could not be an event where just we invite people who have made experience and know all about it. It's actually not the case. We all know a bit, or some more, some less, but this is about exchanging. So tomorrow we do the online bar camp. And everybody who has an idea, a session, who would like to propose a topic or a question or whatever to the others and work on it for 45 minutes, that's tomorrow the space. And we start at 1 o'clock, which is actually a little bit of, you can imagine, as a warm-up and opening. So a kind of space where we can network freely. We will kind of put you in little groups to network, to talk, to get to know each other. And then at 2 o'clock, we start with the call for sessions. And then we have 3 rounds. And yeah, hopefully quite good work in the sessions and discussions.
So it means that if I want to get to know others, I should be there starting or between 1 and 2 o'clock Central European time. But the action itself will start at 2. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, cool. Well, that sounds to be quite a interactive part, and I'm sure that many of those who are watching us now are looking forward to that. So you can also share, and it's, so far I understand, it's not so much about presenting, but you can also come with just your question and find the peers and discuss it.
Exactly. So it could be exactly that you would like to present something, of course, maybe a good practice, but it could be also that you are still curious about a certain question which you have in your mind, which popped up today, or you have since Corona or even before, about all these topics, digital youth mobility. So you ask the question, try to find, or you will find probably some peers who would like to discuss with you about it. and find some first step solutions or maybe good ideas or projects, future projects. Yeah.
Cool. So, and then there are 4 digital mobility labs. So are they webinars and, or what is it and what are they about?
Yeah, exactly. So we thought that we will provide a bit of good practice too, and invite some other experts or speakers to talk about certain things, which are part of the labs. And I go deeper in that in a minute. And they are all not like a webinar, it's more like really a lab, but it's an expert talk or experts talk with Q&A part. So the Q&A will also be a bit larger, so people can really take part. And the first one is on virtual exchange and blended mobility. There we invited someone from the official program of Erasmus Plus Virtual Exchange in order to show us a little bit what is behind this pilot by the European Commission. But we also have invited 2 experts on a good practice. Actually, they have tried it out. They do virtual exchanges, blended mobility with young people or in the field, and we will have an exchange on that. The second is actually on, and it was also mentioned today, on virtual reality. So we thought that could be a good topic to explore further. And therefore, we also have invited a good practice from the field. Practitioners from the UK will present their first step in VR projects, actually, YouthWork 360 degree. And we also invited someone from a bit other field in order to have a look beyond, let's say, beyond our borders in a way. And they will discuss then about this topic exactly. Then we have in the third lab, we have the topic of inclusion and digitalization, which we are quite aware of that could be an opportunity, but maybe has also some limits or challenges. So we invited 2 experts on this topic in order to bring it forward. It was also already tackled a little bit today. So that's also the chance to discuss it forward. And the very last one is a bit different because it's not a clear topic like the other 3, but we thought, okay, most of us are really working with the programs on the European level, such as Erasmus Plus, Youth in Action, and also the others, and European Solidarity Corps. So we thought we will invite some people who can actually talk a little bit about the programs and tell us, well, what's actually already there. So what could be easily be implemented, but also what could be developed further if we have a look on the program. So we invited some people from the head of the NAs from Lithuania. Manfred will be there, who you have already met today, and also from Slovenia. And hopefully someone, what?
Estonian director is also there.
Estonian director is also there, and hopefully somebody from the Commission in order to explore that a little bit further and discuss it exactly. This is number 4.
Great, thank you for the overview. It seems to be quite an agenda. And how does our journey end? On 17th of June, there is something very futuristic. So what is it?
Exactly. On 17th June, we have a closing event as we did an opening event now. And we thought there we would like to see a little bit into the future, foreseeing the future or in digital youth mobility. And that's really a little bit more about, let's say, we are going ahead the next 10 years. So this is why we had called it YouthWork in 2030. So, and there we also try to have a balance between research, practitioners, but also policy, administration. So people who are also from different countries discussing this topic exactly. And this all you can also find who is exactly invited in our program on the web page, yeah, which is also updated since yesterday.
Yeah, and there are also the bios of all the speakers, all the names, all the topics, times, anything you might want to find. And getting back to the Barcamp, there has been a question in the chat. What happened with the proposals that people, for the sessions that people have submitted or during the application? So
they all the proposals are more than welcome. We already got a feeling of what people want to propose, but of course the Barcamp is actually something where we need a session holder, so somebody who is then present also in the Barcamp and is kind of proposing it again, and then it will take place. So if you are there, you are very much invited to just propose it loudly to the whole crowd, and then it will just take place tomorrow, which is nice.
Okay, and that applies also for all of the events. So I can opt in only for some of them.
No, you can, exactly. You can opt in for the one tomorrow and not the other ones. You can opt in for all of them. It's really up to you. So we, of course, have thought about a flow, let's say. So it could make sense to join all, but it's also a time-wise question. So yeah, you can opt in whatever.
And what do I do if I have missed the deadline to register?
We thought about it, and as we know that the access online is a lot easier than buying a travel ticket. So there is on the webpage of Move It, you can find a contact of Katharina Erbes, who is one of the team. You just write an email and you get the access to the events.
Great, so you just need to contact Katharina Erbes, and this contact you can find on the event page of Move It. Great, Sabrina, thank you so much for the overview, and I'm very much looking forward to these 6 following online events.
Exactly, this is just the first one out of 7, and still we want to know, how do you find it? So it's about getting a little bit of feedback from you. We already got a bit in the chat. But in order to have a common one, we would like to share again the Mentimeter with you. Yeah, the Mentimeter,
it's there.
It's there. Great. And there we have a slide. Maybe we can show the next one exactly. So as you can see, you go again on www.menti.com and then put in the code, which is a different one now. It's 871109. And then you can find the question, how did you like it? And there is the option from 1 to 5, not at all, or perfect. And we ask you the 3 categories: the event in general, then the content, and last but not least, the moderation. We wait a bit more for more feedback. Okay. It's decreasing a little bit, but I think in general, it worked quite well. The event in general, content and moderation. Thanks a lot. I think it's around 4, which is a good result, I would say. Still something to improve for the upcoming events. Can we see the next slide, please? Yeah, so here you ask what you are taking out. So please type in a word exactly. Coffee. Not really. Then I don't know what this word actually is. Kelko. Cool spaces. Digital inspiration. There's some heart, some knowledge. Hybrid spaces. Some questions, which is also fine, I think. As an opening event, we go out maybe with more questions than answers. Motivation, that's also great. Some curiosity, thoughts, excitement, it's moving quite a lot, new perspectives, rethink mobility, that's great. I think this is something which I think Niels tried to inspire. Warm ears, probably because of the headphones, ideas, new references, also nice, live worlds, challenges, of course, also, going hybrid. And we have quite some big words on spaces, motivation, information, knowledge question. Thanks a lot. So can we see the next slide and last slide? So any feedback you have for us, just please share it. So it's really a learning process for all of us, I would say, since it started to be a bit faster, to be online, go online, learn new tools, think about new concepts, influence also the current systems and structures, which is also quite a work to do in a moment. So we are really happy to get all your feedback. It was excellent, thank you. Some thanks here. Waiting for next events, has to. There's some new ideas, new concept. Some people like this Mentimeter polls, let's say. Growing together in a digital era, yes, exactly. People should join the barcamp. I also think it's an amazing opportunity for us to really we don't have this situation of I don't actually see you out there, but tomorrow is a chance that we can. And we cannot just see us, we can talk and exchange, share. Great.
Cool, great. Thank you so much for all the feedback. I would like to remind you to join tomorrow. As we said, we will open the space for you to socialize, to meet all the people who are here, not only in chat, but also in person with your cameras on. Make sure they are clean. And this is all you can find in your invitation to join the event. We will be using not Zoom directly, but a Keynote chat will be our gate to it. We will land later on in using Zoom software, but for the start, we'll have something that helps us to have an overview of what is going on in different rooms. So please think on to click in and to call in when you are already in the room, but we will remind you on that tomorrow too. So here we also have a link for you. And have in mind that this is a space for you to share and to provide your ideas, which you can of course do still further in comments, and we will also react to those open questions that are still open, and use this short link bit.ly/moveitfeedback. This is our open feedback box, and there are already some projects, some ideas. Keep on sharing it, commenting, rating it, and use the chance to exchange on the various aspects of digital youth mobility. So this is it for today. We thank you very much for your participation and all the 225 comments that we have already got in the chat. And we are very glad to see that there are even still over 100 participants who are watching us. So tomorrow we are starting latest at 2 with the bar camp, and please join us. We are looking forward to seeing you and welcoming you there.
Ihr habt den Livestream gestoppt.